clarion call for the Republican Party to stand up for BP still echoes across the land. And in our third story tonight, the GOBP is trying to pretend it is not the GOBP and is grabbing at this. The Democrats are taking political advantage. It's now abundantly clear from Speaker of the House Pelosi that the Democratic message will be it's not just Joe Barton. Speaker releasing a statement today detailing other Republicans who agree with Congressman Barton's charge that the president engaged in a shakedown of BP, like Congressman Steve King, Congressman Tom Price, and 100 House Republicans of the Republican Study Group, and other Republicans making similar expressions of sympathy for BP. Congressman Darrell Issa, Congressman Trent Franks, Congressman John Fleming, and of course Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann. More on her in a moment. The calls continue for Congressman Barton to step down as ranking Republican on the House Energy and Commerce Committee, but the House GOBP leadership hasn't decided yet whether to force him to do that. House Republican leadership aides telling the Huffington Post Ryan Grimm that Republican members will listen to what their constituents say and will report back to leadership tomorrow. You'll recall Congressman Barton apologized to BP, and then under pressure from Republican colleagues, who must have known that they'd just been found out, Barton retracted the apology, kinda. White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel explained how Barton's defense of BP is more than just a political gift to Democrats.
But the approach here, expressed and supported by other voices in the Republican Party, sees the aggrieved party as BP, not the fishermen and the communities down there affected. And that would be the governing philosophy. And I think what Joe Barton did is remind the American people, in case they forgot, this is how the Republicans would govern.
And the GOP is scrambling. Senate Minority Leader McConnell saying over the weekend that he could not disagree with Barton more. Today on the Senate floor.
2 months of delays and bureaucratic red tape have done nothing to solve the crisis, but they've done a lot to discredit the kind of big government solutions that Democrats continue to promote. Every day the oil continues to flow is a day Americans' faith in government ebbs.
So now, wait, Republicans are going to campaign on how smaller government is the solution to a BP Gulf oil spill type of situation? As for another Republican who felt really, really sorry for BP, the ad from her opponent is already out.
I'm Terrell Clark, and I approve this message.
America's worst ever environmental disaster, killing thousands of jobs, costing billions. It's BP's fault, and they should pay. But Michelle Bachmann calls making BP pay for the cleanup extortion, and said, if I was the head of BP, I would let the signal get out there we're not going to be chumps. If Bachmann lets BP off the hook, guess who's paying? Us. Michelle Bachmann, standing up for BP, not us.
Even corporate water carriers like Rush Limbaugh are going as fast as a bull with gas, trying to convince us that they're not actually defending BP. I'm not defending BP here. I'm trying to defend the U.S. Constitution, the American way of life, American exceptionalism, what it was that made this country great. But Limbaugh kept calling the BP fund a shakedown and never explained how the American Constitution, the American way of life, or the American exceptionalism means we'd have to defend a British corporation. Turn now to D.C. Bureau Chief for Mother Jones Magazine, columnist for PoliticsDaily.com, David Corn. David, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
All right, so I'm trying to follow this. The Republicans are pro-business. They just aren't pro-BP, and if they'd been in power, they would not have been pro-BP in this particular instance. Is that it?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think, you know, Mitch McConnell showed that they don't like big government, they don't like regulations, and they think that there are fewer regulations and fewer safeguards put in place, then none of this would have happened. And I just don't see the logic in that. They want to use the BP oil spill to discredit government. Then what are they saying? We should let corporations have even more latitude than they have already in Washington, with all the, you know, lobbyists running around and all the influence peddling that has made the regulatory scheme that governs BP and oil drilling, and also financial regulation and everything else, that making that weaker will make us safer. It's very, you know, it's almost Orwellian.
It is. That's the word to me. Either that or that's the one line from Catch-22. We will win by being defeated. To that point, who's rooting for Joe Barton to not step down as the ranking member of the Energy Committee? Is it the Democrats? And if he does step down, is he no longer of any use?
I think it's every single Democrat in America. Mm-hmm. They're saying, Joe Barton, you go for it. You keep that ranking member position. Don't you know, stick to your guns. I mean, after all, I mean, you made this point. I've written about this. Others have made this point. It wasn't a gaffe. Joe Barton said what he believed. In the face-off between the Obama administration and BP, he saw good and evil. And the good was BP and the evil was the Obama administration. And that comes out of a hatred or, you know, or an antipathy towards Obama, and out of a bias in favor of corporations and giving them, you know, personhood, and letting them have rule of the roost in Washington. So right now, I mean, the Democrats don't want this to go away. Rahm Emanuel made that point very clearly yesterday, as you just showed. And the more that Barton stays in the focus, the better off for the Democrats.
Downside for the Democrats running on this?
If there is, I don't see it. You know, maybe amongst you know, the large block of votes amongst BP lobbyists, but other than that, I mean, it is, as Rahm said, a reminder. The whole Democratic strategy before BP was, we want to remind the voters that while we're working on financial reform and healthcare reform, the Republicans, when they were in power, you know, gave corporate power, you know, free rein. They didn't look out for the middle class, and we've done this, and there is a choice in this election. Joe Barton came along and made that abstract concept very real and personal. And I don't know if that's going to carry through into November. You know, these things come and go very quickly. But right now, there's no downside for the Democrats beating up on BP and pointing to Joe Barton and the House Republicans as being, you know, the handmaidens of industry.